Okay, the draft is basically here, but what last-minute prospects surfaced as a potential Jeff Stoutland project? Plus, Howie Roseman just about got away with highway robbery after these latest contract extensions. And the Eagles are about to do the unthinkable, but let's talk about why that may not be so crazy after all. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? Alright, 4 years ago, Howie Roseman did the unthinkable, or at least the unthinkable to some, when he drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round of the 2020 NFL Draft. And look, I won't lie, did I like that decision at that time?
No, I did not.
Obviously, I'm crazy after the fact because look how it's turned out. Plus the absolute haul we ended up getting for the Carson Wentz trade, who by the way, we still don't have the net return settled since the deal has now resulted in DeVonta Smith, Jordan Davis, AJ Brown, Jalen Carter, and whoever the Eagles get in the second round of this year's draft. Yet again, at the time, it was absolutely shocking to see Howie draft a quarterback as early as round 2 after paying Wentz a $128 million contract. Yes, I realize there were some of you OGs who were on it from day one, and for that, I applaud you. Now, even though I was not, I'm not sure I would classify that as shocking as it'd be if the Eagles went tight end this year in the first round. Although according to ESPN's Dan Graciano, there's a theory that the Birds could move up for Brock Bowers, especially given the preference for those Philly dogs. Now again, personally, I think that's a bit far-fetched. Sure, you want to get your backup tight end, and Goddard's getting up there in age at 29, but I highly doubt it's someone you get in the first round. However, make no mistake, the Eagles won't pick at 22.
So I would say more likely to trade up than to trade back, but 0% chance he sticks and picks. If I was going to lean in one direction, I'm leaning towards corner. You know, if you know where we are right now as we march towards the draft, if I was going to put in my guess on the Eagles, I would say it is one of the Alabama corners.
It really makes a whole lot of sense, especially with Howie's determined effort for SEC players. But another theory that's gaining steam is Philly taking a wide receiver early, since the people Dan Graciano talked to believe the Eagles want to move up for a receiver in the draft, which I would still argue the first round is too early for that, but there's several options in the second that make some sense. Plus, given the fact that Detroit just extended wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown on a 4-year, $120 million deal with $77 million of that guaranteed, just adds to the idea of capitalizing on a premium position. Also, this is why Howie Roseman is so good at what he does. Like Anthony DeBona has said and continues to say, Howie got ahead of the market and paid DeVonta before any other extensions were signed. And yeah, I'd say getting the Slim Reaper for $5 million less per year and only $51 million guaranteed instead of the $77 million is an absolute steal. Meanwhile, like Lord Brunson said, Cowboys owner Jerry Jones is shaking a cup on the corner.
It's so damn hot. Milk was a bad choice.
You know, good for Detroit. They deserve to be happy. I mean, personally, I wouldn't love paying that amount, but even Amon-Ra's contract's gonna look better the longer time goes on. But my favorite part is that Jerry chooses to continue living in an alternate universe, saying about the potential contract extensions, we'd like to see more leaves fall. We'd like to see more action. I've spent my life playing option quarterback. I want to see some more cards played. Now, I won't lie, I'm no Jerry whisperer, but thankfully RJ Ochoa translated the situation, admitting elite work by Howie Roseman. While within the division, the Cowboys are actually purposefully waiting for the market to go up so that they can start thinking about extending their own.
They've done studies, 60% of the time, it works every time.
The fact that Dallas was supposed to be all in this offseason, yet they've basically folded before every flop so far, is reason enough to be in a really good mood. Although I was actually thrilled to see Detroit's other move when they extended Penei Sewell to make him the highest paid offensive lineman in the NFL, with a 4-year, $112 million deal, including $85 million guaranteed. Like I already thought Jordan Mailata's contract was great at 3 years for $66 and $48 million guaranteed, but that's just phenomenal. Again, I'll go back to positional value and knowing which groups are going to demand more money when their contract is up, which is why guys like South Carolina's Xavier Legette and Florida's Ricky Pearsall make more and more sense to draft in the second round. And I'd say Pearsall is more ready to come in and make an impact from day one, but I don't think it's a stretch to argue Legette has the higher ceiling, given his size, athleticism, physicality, and just the fact that he was very productive in just one season despite not being nearly as polished. Granted, that could certainly still be a negative if he doesn't pan out, which is why I still have Pearsall slightly higher than Legette, but I'd be happy with either option. Curious though, are you starting to come around on the idea of wide receiver, or why would you argue against it? Alright, let's also get to the latest reported top 30 visit, with the Eagles apparently having met with Utah tackle Satoa Lamea, according to Justin Mello of the Draft Network. And this dude's definitely intriguing, having been working out with retired offensive lineman Joe Staley, as Lamea helped make a name for himself at the Senior Bowl and isn't necessarily lacking any confidence, with a 6'4", 311-pound prospect saying he wants to start in year one, and then quickly move up to a Pro Bowler and then an All-Pro. Now, on the negative side, Lamea was pretty good as a run blocker, but the pass blocking definitely needs some work, and it's said that he lacks a little bit in anticipation and footwork needs to get better at the NFL level. Yet again, I think we'd all say we're a believer in Stout at this point, so perhaps worth a flyer for a guy who's projected somewhere around the 6th or 7th round. Okay, I've also got to mention the latest report of Toledo cornerback Quinyon Mitchell meeting with the Eagles, especially considering that Tony Pauline reported that Philly is interested in trading up for him. And NBC's John Clark got to ask Quinyon his thoughts about that.
Yeah, it went good. Coach Kendall and the head coach, they best friends, so I was talking a little trash to him. So, yeah, it was really good.
Did you take the hoops test with Nick Sirianni, the competition?
He didn't want to play hoops, so, I ain't do it.
The Eagles have been rumored to want to move up and get you.
Yeah.
What do you think it would be like to be an Eagle?
I mean, it'd be great playing for that city and playing for that fan base, so I really enjoy it.
Have the Eagles showed interest in you?
Yeah, they brought me on the visit, and the visit went great, just meeting everybody there, so I feel like it went good.
What would you bring as a corner?
What would I bring?
Yeah.
Just intensity, ball skills, turnovers, and interceptions, so that's what I bring.
That just gets me more excited because y'all know I'm all about Quinyon and drafting a corner, but this move would have me ecstatic. Of course, having said that, I had to take one more crack at what I feel is like the most realistic possible chance for the Eagles in a mock draft. Chicago's on the clock, but really not for long because we know they're going to take Caleb Williams, which is a given. And let's make sure, okay, we've got our Howie Roseman cap on. Who are we going to get? Make this as realistic as possible or what we could actually see happening on draft night. Obviously, it's not going to be even remotely close probably, but Joe Alt at 5, J.J. McCarthy 6. You got your quarterbacks, a couple receivers. Malik Neighbors falls all the way to 7. Brock Bowers at 8 to Atlanta. Chicago's going Dallas Turner. The Jets are getting Quinyon Mitchell. So you got Quinyon Mitchell and Sauce there. That's ridiculous. Jaden Daniels 11 to the Vikings. 12, Talise Fuaga goes to the Broncos. Las Vegas is going to take Fashanu. The Saints are going J.C. Latham, and the Colts are going to take Cooper DeJean. All right, so I'm going to pause it here because, again, this feels like the most realistic scenario where you do trade up. We've talked about it, for probably almost a week at this point. But you got a realistic trade scenario of a 16 and 81 with Seattle for 22 and 53, and some suggest that it might take a 22, 53, and 161, or I think a 171, I believe is actually what it was. So, you could do it for either one here. I'm gonna keep it with the initial proposed 16 and 81 for 22 and 53. Whatever, if I needed to move those others, I could have, but we're gonna trade that. Move up. This one feels like a no-brainer. So we offer the trade. Done deal there, and then why I say no-brainer, and you guys know this, but come on. Cornerback, Terrion Arnold is available. You got to select him. If it's Quinyon Mitchell or it's Terrion Arnold, all the reports, you just heard it talking about all the reports of the corners and everything else there, but if he's available, you draft him in there at 16. You trade up, you get your guy. Howie wants his corner. He finally does it in the first round, so again, this is really a no-brainer. I know you have Letu Latu, you have Jared Verse there. You can make your arguments for edge rusher. I've seen some of those people that have done that, and I can't totally knock it. I get the line of thinking there. I do understand that, but there's just no way that I can pass up on Terrion Arnold or Quinyon Mitchell. So for pick 16 in the NFL draft, this is my prediction here. We're gonna go as realistic as possible. I'm gonna say the Eagles get Terrion Arnold in a trade up at 16 in the 2024 NFL draft. I'm going to be ecstatic if this happens, and you guys already know, but what it says here is Arnold played mostly outside cornerback for Alabama over the past 2 seasons, but gained some experience in the slot in 2023. He has great long speed, recovery speed, acceleration, and agility. He also brings impressive ball skills with good on-ball production. And at 6 foot, 196 pounds, and only 21 years old, Arnold isn't the most polished cornerbacks in the class, but he has the high percentile athletic abilities that give him as high of a ceiling as any quarterback in man or zone systems. He has the talent to shut down all kinds of receivers, though green on total snaps, he does show a good understanding of post-snap adjustments and man-match principles. All right, I've said it a couple times, and you guys still know this. If I had to pick, I'm taking Quinyon Mitchell over Terrion Arnold. However, I'm not going to be upset by any means. Terrion Arnold is going to be fantastic, and he also has that versatility of man and zone like I talked about there in the scouting report. So I'm thrilled if this happens in real life. Again, we had to trade up and you get rid of one of your second-round picks, but it makes a lot of sense. Get Seattle into the second round, which they really want to be, and then also moves us back into the third round. So let's move over to 50, see who's available there. All right, got our cornerback, feeling happy about it. Again, would have probably taken Quinyon Mitchell, but I'm not going to be anywhere at all concerned or upset or anything like that. If we get a corner on draft night, I'm gonna be ecstatic. So literally, we're one day away, If that happens, I'm going to be thrilled. But let's see here 50 now, because we had to get rid of 53. Does that change things in terms of the draft? Who might still be available? Guys that we can go target? So at 50, we're going to take a look at the board here. What would Howie Roseman do? Trying to keep that Howie Roseman cap on. Does he go after a specific player? This one to me kind of feels obvious. And I know this is crazy because you got your defensive player. Yes, we need defense. I love linebacker. I've got a problem with drafting Edgerrin Cooper, so naturally my tendency is just to scroll down, take Edgerrin Cooper, and move on. However, I've got to say, if this is the board that falls, if this is the way the board falls, then I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's a given. You've got to go and take wide receiver. Like, I'm sorry, but Xavier Legette, the availability, the potential that he has, I mean, you could take a Javon Bullard if you want to get safety. You're not going to double dip on corner this early, so that's not possible. Interior D-line, Chris Jenkins, your running backs, Jonah Ellis if you want a pass rusher, or you got to tackle Amagaji. There's potential there, but I think that it's a no-brainer. If you're taking, again, we got to remember, Howie said it a number of times, positional value and the cost. Heck, we just talked about everything with the receiver contracts and everything on board there. If you're looking at down the road, you can get a productive player who potentially, we hope that, AJ does not have to be, shipped off elsewhere. You can't extend him. But if it does happen, hey, you know what? You're kind of helping yourself, getting insurance policy, and also a guy who can really make a difference, especially in a Kellen Moore offense as wide receiver 3, comfortable in the slot. So, yeah, to me here, it may be crazy. Let me know in the comments, but I got to take 50, Xavier Legette. So with 50th pick in the NFL draft, the Philadelphia Eagles take Xavier Legette, wide receiver out of South Carolina. I've talked about Legette so many times at this point, but you guys know, this guy is one of the best versus man coverage, crazy athleticism. Ran a 4.39 at 6'3", 227 pounds. He's 23 years old, so yeah, a little bit of a late bloomer, and obviously didn't play as much in the past seasons or kind of burst on the scene with his stats, but this guy has so much potential. What it says here, mainly used as a scheme-up, yards after catch receiver in 22, and not trusted as a route winner the previous year, but Legette ascended to wide receiver 1 in South Carolina's offense and gave us a season of wow moments due to his athleticism and some of the most impressive contested catches of any receiver. And also, he can hit a top speed that most his size simply can't. We know that Howie Roseman loves that, but heck, you got an Ole Miss with A.J. Brown, a South Carolina with Xavier Legette, you've got DeVonta Smith, so it makes a whole lot of sense, and plus there's a lot of similarities. Xavier Legette has been called A.J. Brown 2.0, so I love it there. You add some athleticism, some physicality, a guy like I talked about. If you haven't already, hit the thumbs up. Seriously, we've got Terrion Arnold. If we have Terrion Arnold and Xavier Legette as the first 2 picks, come on, you're going to be pretty happy about that. Again, I know maybe there's some of you out there, we got to go defense. We don't have the luxury. Daniel Jeremiah saying that this is kind of a gluttonous pick, but also he believes that the Eagles would pick a wide receiver very early, especially with the value and the positional value that we know that it is. So first 2 picks off the board. Let's see if we can get a couple more defensive players, though. Cornerback, wide receiver taken care of. Now we wait for 81, see if there's some potential options, because yes, we for sure need some defense and see how that one plays out. But let's, Edgerrin Cooper went till 63. That's a quite a bit of fall, and it just really depends. Obviously, it's, the mock draft simulators are all different. Some have him earlier, some have him later. So you never know, and that's just a reminder, because no matter how many mock drafts we've done, the hundreds that I've done or the millions that other people have done, you still never know. At the end of the day, it's a question mark. You're just guessing, but here you go. You've got an option of Junior Colson. So far, let me just say this. If I'm taking a look at this board, it falls in your lap again. There's not a decision to be made. The draft has been made for you. Junior Colson is there. You guys know he's my second linebacker. Edgerrin Cooper's my favorite. But if Junior Colson is here and you traded back at 81 and you could still get a Junior Colson, there's nothing to talk about. Sure, I'll go down the list here and double check and make sure. If you want to get a running back, Trey Benson, Bucky Irving, yes, there's lots to like. Marshawn Lloyd, he's talked about Philly. He likes Philly, had a great visit, makes some sense. You already took your receivers. You don't need a Johnny Wilson. You don't need a Jalen McMillan. Kyrie Jackson, you want to double up on corner? Probably not. You could do an edge rusher of Austin Booker. But again, we're starting to get so far down here, and value-wise, it's a no-brainer. So give me Junior Colson, 81 in the 2024 draft. The Philadelphia Eagles select Junior Colson, linebacker out of Michigan. What it says here is Colson grew up playing soccer in Haiti and began playing football when he moved to the U.S. He committed to Michigan and started 36 of his 41 games played in just 3 seasons. He's a strong and reliable run defender who has good discipline at the line of scrimmage. His feel for coverage is also above average, and he has good pre-snap communication and recognition and does not run himself out of plays with play action or pre-snap motion. Now, on the flip side, he's said to be a good athlete, not a great one. However, with his size of 6'3", 247, and only 21 years old, there's a lot to like. All right, I gotta be honest, this is probably the first legit mock draft. I mean, I've done it for kind of gimmick or whatever and saying, oh, I'm not gonna take Edgerrin Cooper, but the first one that I've legit sat down and said, value-wise, I got to take these players and not ending up with Edgerrin Cooper. And I'll say it again, there's a case to be made that Junior Colson is the better or maybe more complete or however you want to phrase that than Edgerrin Cooper. So I'm not upset by any means, especially with the fact that we got some of these other players. But you add Junior Colson to this mix on a Vic Fangio defense, and I am ecstatic. Plus, you got a very big physical linebacker, 6'3", 247. So again, if you haven't already, thumbs up. If this is what actually happens, Thomas and I are going to be live streaming, giving away tons of stuff. And also, if you want to get in on the NFL Draft League, it may not be too late, depending on when you're watching this video. If the first round has not taken place, more details in the description. But let's see now. We've already got our edge, or we've already got our cornerback, we've got a wide receiver, and our linebacker. We need an edge, so let's see if we can pick that up. I mean, this is just wild, quite honestly, because, again, I don't expect or did not expect to have these types of players fall to you at that point. But if you're there, it just makes too much sense, I think, to not just go up and grab the linebacker. You got Xavier Legette falling in your lap, Terrion Arnold, who slipped enough to trade up for. So I'm loving it at this point. Let's see if there's a case to be made here now of trading up or potentially going and getting a guy that's going to help the Eagles in a couple different areas. Now I'm gonna see what it might take if we can trade up in this vicinity. 110. If there's going to be any trading up, we'd have to obviously get rid of 120. Let's see. If we did 120 and 120, 161, and 172 for 110 and 140 with LA. I think I like this because there's a couple options that we have at 110 that have still not come off the board yet. And we can trade up and get those. So again, all right, here's what we're looking at. So far, we've got your cornerback, Terrion Arnold, wide receiver, Xavier Legette. You've got Junior Colson. And now we're taking a look at probably needing an edge. You could say we need an offensive lineman, maybe a safety, a running back. There's a couple different ones here, obviously. But let's see. We got Matt Goncalves from Pitt. You could add to the offensive line. Christian Mahogany, if you want to go guard. Take a quick look at the interior. Yeah, so there's a few here. You got Zach Zinter. I mean, he continues to fall much further on that side, but let's see. The tackle from that stance, if you want to go offensive tackle, like I said, Matt Goncalves is really the only realistic. What about edge? Because yes, we do need some depth, and we're for sure going to take someone. We've got 140. Maybe you get Muhammad Kamara. That's just kind of the most obvious one to me. It continues to be. But Brennan Jackson is available. There's another good pick. And then you've got running back. I think here at this point, I got to go O-line. Cooper Beebe is great, but he was earlier. He went earlier, probably 90-something, 94. Yeah, so if Cooper Beebe is gone, Christian Mahogany's another guard that the Eagles have shown some interest in. I think that makes a lot of sense. You get your O-line and then see about either trading up again if we can get edge or maybe sit tight at 140. Will depend on how far that actually goes. But let's see here. We'll draft Christian Mahogany because there's a lot to like within that. You get depth, add for Jeff Stoutland. Again, tackle seems to be the one where it's like, depending on how the draft falls, it totally makes sense if you get a guy early, or you might wait and then all of a sudden say, well, okay, we're getting a guy who's, yes, a project for Stout, but is he quite at to that level? So for pick 110, the Philadelphia Eagles select Christian Mahogany, guard out of Boston College. Just in case anyone's not familiar, it says here, Mahogany is a throwback type of interior offensive lineman whom run-heavy teams will gravitate toward. He's built well for a guard with his barrel chest, good weight in his midsection, and plenty of sand in the pants, or otherwise phrased as weight in the hamstrings and glutes. This helps him generate a ton of force in run blocking. He has an eraser's mentality and will completely block his guy out of the play. Yeah, sounds exactly like a Jeff Stoutland project. Now, I know that you could say run-heavy team, Kellen Moore's offense, sure, but you have Saquon Barkley, and I do believe the Eagles are trying to adjust a little bit more. Not fully, because yes, it's Kellen Moore, but a guy like Christian Mahogany, the physicality, what he can do, especially in the run game, and like I mentioned, Stoutland there adds another body on that side. So, got your guard. Let's move on. We got to get an edge rusher. Now I'm curious about edge rusher. We do need to trade up probably and get a guy if we can. I'm curious how long he's going to be available, quite honestly. So let's take a look if we can eke this out, get lucky, fortunate maybe, possibly trade up about here. I don't know that I want to wait much longer. So 129 for 140 and 210. I think that's what I'm going to do because I just, this might be a slight reach. Those that you guys can let me know in the comments. I totally appreciate the back and forth and the disagreements and arguments and case to be made for everyone else, but I would say I can't miss out on a pass rusher, and there's really only one more guy in my mind that I would draft at this position easily. I just a ton to like, so I'm not going to wait and get caught, where all of a sudden he gets taken. I'm going to trade up in case Baltimore, who might need an edge, goes and takes him. So let's make this trade with Minnesota, 129, and we're going to give them 140 and 210. And then we're going to see here. Well, let me see if I could take one. Let's see. We'll see if we could just take another just to get a pick back. 230. There you go. All right. Offer the trade. Same amount of picks. There's Estime. That's a natural inclination to go, oh, hey, do we get our running back here? But again, if we're going to take a look at getting an edge, we certainly need at least another body to help out with a pass rush. For me, it's Muhammad Kamara. I love this player. I mean, he is an absolute dude, just a gamer out there. I've mentioned him on just about every single mock draft and tons of different shows and everything else. So you guys know probably by this point a lot about him. But the Eagles got a private workout. Jeremiah Washburn visiting him to get some extra, critique on and also some extra knowledge and info. So a little bit undersized, but I think that it's too obvious to pick. So at 129, the Philadelphia Eagles select Muhammad Kamara, edge out of Colorado State. Just in case, a refresher or someone who's not as familiar with me picking him quite a bit, but Muhammad Kamara is one of the best pass rushers when it comes to pass rush win rate, boasting a 19.4% pass rush win rate, one of the best true pass set pass rush grades. I know that's a mouthful, but basically just pass rush efficiency. And I mean, this guy has tons of different moves. Now, at 6'1", he's a little bit below the 50th percentile for all NFL edge rushers. And again, kind of similarities with BG with some undersized part, but 6'1", 250. He's 24 years old, so it's kind of a knock there, but also he has a lot of maturity and he can show up in a bunch of different ways. So I love the fact that he uses a really good pad level. He can bull rush. If you can develop him a little bit, plus he's going to play in a rotational system, makes a whole lot of sense. Also, by the way, this may or may not mean anything, but his hometown is Newark, New Jersey. So, Howie talked about guys who are very close to Philly, familiar with the area. Maybe that helps him on draft day, maybe not. But either way, I think that he's good enough to just draft in this position. So I like that there. Let's see who we can get on the next one. All right, we got 171 and 230 next. These are our last couple selections. I'm going to speed this part up because, again, by this point, we're not cherry picking on this talent. We're kind of seeing who falls. So we've got a lot of players taken at this point. You could take a tackle. We might need an offensive guy. Or an offensive tackle, or you take a running back in this situation. We've already got our linebacker. We got a receiver. You got some guys taken care of. Do you want to take a punter? Maybe. There's just a potential. Take a punter, Torrey Taylor. No. I think, honestly, as I'm looking at this here, I'd say go with running back later, and I'm going to take a tackle. Now, if I was going to take a Oklahoma tackle, obviously, Tyler Guyton would be the choice. However, if you're going to take a guy, maybe a project, take a Walter Rouse, Lane Johnson would be fairly familiar with him because Oklahoma. So I'd say that's not the worst pick, certainly at a 171. So that's where I'm going to go with. 171, give me Walter Rouse out of Oklahoma for the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, and then last pick here, we're going to get for 230. I'm going to say probably running back. We'll see who falls here, and maybe it's a better selection and taking someone else outside of a running back, but we got a long ways to wait. We're in round 7. Just take a flyer on someone, who knows? But let's see. At this point, oh gosh, actually, this is too easy for me. Wow. Okay, so This is possibly where, I could be wrong, this is possibly where PFF has rankings wrong. And all of them do. PFF has some of them wrong. PFN, what's realistic and going to happen in the draft. No one knows. It's a crapshoot. I get that. I was thinking running back, but honestly, Elijah Jones, cornerback out of Boston College. Andrew DeCecco mentioned him, getting a lot of interest from other teams. Jim Nagy said that he's his defensive sleeper of the draft. If he's somehow magically available in the 7th round at 230, you take Elijah Jones. I know that we got Terrion Arnold, but you add depth, and we talk about another guy who can make plays, 5 interceptions last season. To me, it's a no-brainer. You could say, hey, Joe Milton, if you want a little project quarterback, QB factory, but we have 4 quarterbacks, kind of. I mean, you got Tanner McKee, Will Greer, traded for Kenny Pickett. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'm going to go Elijah Jones, cornerback out of Boston College, round this out, and then let's see where we go with the rankings and what we end up here with the draft grades. Overall, I got to say, I'm pretty happy before we even see these draft grades. But let's see what they give us after this draft. There you go. Great job. There's no suggestions they would have made, so it's got to be decent. Got an A for Terrion Arnold at 16. At 50, we get an A for Xavier Legette. 81, get an A for Junior Colson. At 110, we get a B for Christian Mahogany. Okay, first non-A, but I'll take that. 129, we're going to get a C for Muhammad Kamara. That's fair. I mean, the PFF grading, they don't think that he's worth that high. I don't mind it. I would say it's a better pick than a C. 171, tackle Rouse gets a B-. And then 230, an A- for Elijah Jones. So that's a really good grade, really good draft. A-, I will take that. Honestly, I mean, if I'm looking at this, might be one of my favorite mock drafts that I've done throughout the entire season, and certainly even the ones that I posted publicly. But let's just take a look again. We did the trade. If this is the group of guys that you walk away with on draft night, I'm going to be pretty ecstatic. Not going to lie. You got Terrion Arnold, Xavier Legette, Junior Colson, Christian Mahogany, Muhammad Kamara, Walter Rouse, and Elijah Jones. Lots of guys who can make impacts very early on. Certainly your first 3 picks for sure. Maybe even 4 or 5. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below what you would have done differently, where you would have adjusted. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And then also, depending on when you're watching this, if it hasn't been too late, Thomas and I are going to be live Thursday night, tonight, whenever you're watching this, Thursday night and Friday night for the draft. So come hang out with us. More details if you want to get in on the NFL Draft League, and it's not too late. Venmo or Cash App, any amount, and it automatically gets you into the Draft League, where you get a chance to win a jersey if you have the most picks correct in the first round. So good luck to you guys, and I can't believe it, but we were actually finally here at the draft night, so we'll see you then. Until next time, this has been the Philly Special.